You're listening to the Blissful Hiker podcast. I'm Allison Young, the solo, female, middle-aged, titanium-reinforced, long-distance backpacker blissful hiker, sharing stories to empower you to learn to hike your own hike, too. This week, I talk about the reasons I'm a solo backpacker, as well as a shift that I'm making professionally. I'm adding to my bag of tricks. I'm now a professional speaker and share stories about my trail adventures to live audiences, both in person and virtually. Now, I do give the traditional travelogue slideshow of gorgeous pictures, video, and stories, but I've also been exploring deeper and more universal questions, ones that challenge, inspire, and teach audiences about joy, spiritual renewal, the power of quitting, and tapping into creativity. Now, I'm still a voiceover artist. In fact, I had a really cool medical narration this morning where the word photoplethysmography needed to fall out of my mouth as if I use it in a sentence every single day. Photoplethysmography. It's fun to say. I'm also playing my flute regularly at St. Ambrose in Woodbury and St. John the Evangelist in St. Paul. But I'm super excited about this new edition. Just this past year, I've given over 50 keynote talks. If you or your organization is in need of a speaker, if you'd like me to come and speak to your audience, just drop me a line. There's a link to contact me in the show notes or go to blissfulhiker.com. One of the most satisfying aspects to professional speaking is interacting with the audience. Yesterday, I gave the From Adventure to Renewal talk to a group in Minnesota. And after hearing how I walk solo and need that time to reconnect to myself and the spirit, a woman in the audience shared a personal story. She told us that she lost her husband when she was my age, and she was deeply lonely. In fact, she thought she would never be happy again. At the time, she was living in Grand Marais. It's a city on Lake Superior's North Shore, and it's a place I thru-hiked last summer on the Superior Hiking Trail. So the story goes that a friend had planned to hike with her that day, but when she prepared to go, her friend suddenly dropped out. And faced with being alone and not entirely sure what lay ahead, she decided to just go anyway, even if it felt scary. What happened was something wondrous. That walk became the first steps into the rest of her life. Just the act of her body taking up a new and unfamiliar space opened up the possibility of self-reliance, feeling safe, and accessing joy again. When she arrived at the overlook high above the lake, the word she used to describe the moment was exalted. People often ask me why I hike alone, and it's for many of the same reasons: to get grounded, to engage more deeply with the world around me, and to do so at my own pace. When I backpack, I carry on a two-way conversation with the spirit. I like to call her the goddess, who is more than likely the wiser part of myself. Still, I can hardly wait to get on trail again so we can pick up right where we left off. Being alone may seem dangerous or unconventional, and yet solitude in the wilderness has long been an ancient form of ceremonial initiation. Think of time spent in the wilderness by Moses and Jesus, or the rite of passage of a vision quest. The practice forces a person to face their fear and often their temptations, as well as their loneliness without outside help, ultimately leading to a discovery of inner strength and a sense of true identity. In his classic study, The World of Silence, Max Picard describes the quiet we experience when alone as an autonomous phenomenon, which is not simply what happens when we stop talking, but an independent whole subsisting in and through itself. Isn't that wonderful? When we remove the noise of life, the literal and the figurative, we can hear better. We can get closer to that exalted feeling the woman at my talk described. Another phenomenon takes place when we're alone in a natural setting. The level of risk rises. There's no one to talk over plans with, no one to hold us back from plunging into a rushing river or making any number of bad choices. There's no one to unload bear spray when we're being charged. The smartest thing we can do before heading into a solitary experience is to properly prepare and develop a sense of presence in our own space. That means making plans before we head out, including packing an insurance policy like the 10 essentials, deciding what sorts of conditions will cause us to turn around, and to stick with a plan to do so. And to use the most powerful bit of gear all of us are born with, our brains. And for the love of everything sacred, please tell someone where you're going and when to expect you to return. This is one of the simplest acts you can take to ensure your safety, especially if you're hiking all by yourself. All this being said, you could never call me a risk taker, even if some say I'm brave and courageous. I'm far more calculated about how much danger I want to expose myself to. For instance, on the Wind River High Route, I went with a trio of tough girls. And in gale force winds on Waio Pass on the Te Araroa, I linked up with fellow hikers. And when looking for a route through heavy mist in Scotland, I was really happy to be hooked up with another bog trotter. Still, aloneness in a vast space has this ability to induce a feeling that's totally unique to us humans within all of the animal kingdom. It's the feeling of awe. It's what Emily Dickinson writes about when she says our soul should stand ajar for the ecstatic experience. And if getting there requires building skills, taking calculated risks, and facing down loneliness and fear, being alone, hiking alone, I gotta say, it's well worth it. You can subscribe to Blissful Hiker wherever you get your podcasts. And if you or your organization is in need of a speaker and wants me to come and present some of my ideas and show my beautiful photos and videos from my hikes, drop me a line. There's a link to contact me in the show notes, or just go to blissfulhiker.com. Have a great week, my friends, and until we meet again, kia kaha and happy trails.